Daniel never planned to change anyone's life that day. He woke up just like any other morning in his small room above the repair shop where he worked. The sun was barely up, and the early light entered through the thin curtains, painting soft lines across the wooden floor. Daniel stretched his arms and stood by the window for a moment. He could already hear the distant noise of the marketplace opening the voices, the soft laughter of children, and the sound of merchants setting up their stalls. For him, it was just another normal day. He washed his face, grabbed a simple breakfast of bread and tea, and stepped outside. The morning air felt fresh, cool, and calm. Daniel loved walking to the market at this time. It gave him a chance to clear his mind before a long day of repairs and customers asking him to fix tools, lamps, or old machines. He was known in the town as the kind of man who always helped others. Even if he didn't have much himself, as he walked toward the market, he noticed something unusual. A crowd had formed near the corner where a small trader usually sold vegetables and simple goods. The crowd wasn't loud or angry, but people were gathered closely, whispering to one another. Daniel slowed his steps, confused, because such crowds were rare in their quiet little town. When he got closer, he saw her. A young woman stood beside the trader. She was thin, tired, and her clothes were dusty from long travel. Her dark hair fell loosely around her shoulders, and her eyes looked lost, as if she hadn't slept in days. She wasn't crying or arguing. She simply stood there with a mix of embarrassment and fear. Daniel's heart tightened at the sight. Something about her made him stop without thinking. The trader was talking loudly so the crowd could hear. He repeated the same thing over and over, that she owed him money for food he had given her the previous night. $2. Only $2. But he refused to let her go until she repaid it by working for him. He wasn't shouting, but his voice carried the tone of someone who enjoyed having control over a helpless person. Daniel watched the scene for a moment. The girl didn't defend herself or try to run away. She simply stood with her head lowered, her hands held tightly together. It was clear she was exhausted, scared, and unsure what to do. She looked like someone who had reached the end of her strength. The crowd whispered quietly, feeling sorry for her but not willing to step forward. Daniel was not the type to stay silent when something felt wrong. He stepped through the crowd, moving closer until he stood directly in front of the trader and the girl. His calm voice broke through the hush around them. "What's going on here?" The trader didn't seem bothered by Daniel's question. He lifted his chin and explained again that the girl had eaten food at his stall the night before and now owed him $2. She had no money. According to him, she must work for him until the debt was paid. Some people in the crowd murmured, feeling uneasy. They had seen such things before, small debts turning into long days of forced labor. Daniel looked at the girl. Her timid eyes met his for a brief second before lowering again. That small moment was enough for Daniel to understand that she was not dishonest or careless. She looked like someone who had been struggling for a long time and simply accepted. Whatever came her way, he turned to the trader again. "How much does she owe?" $2, the trader repeated. Daniel reached into his pocket without another word. He didn't have much with him, usually only enough to buy a few supplies, but he quickly found the coins he needed. He held them out. "Here, take this. Her debt is paid." The trader blinked, surprised, but greed worked faster than pride. He took the money without arguing. The crowd around them fell silent, watching the simple moment unfold. No one expected someone to act so quickly, so quietly, and so kindly. The trader stepped back, shrugging. "Fine. She's free now." People began to move away, the tension slowly dissolving. A few nodded approvingly at Daniel before returning to their morning routines. Daniel turned to the girl again. She still stood where she was, as if she couldn't believe that someone she had never met had just paid for her freedom. Her lips trembled slightly, but she didn't speak. It was clear she didn't know how to react. "You're free to go," Daniel said softly, trying not to overwhelm her. "You don't owe anyone anything." The girl took a shaky breath. She looked around, unsure of where to step. Then she looked up at Daniel with wide, uncertain eyes. "Thank you," she whispered so quietly that he barely heard her. Daniel nodded. "Are you all right?" Do you need help finding a place to rest?" For a moment, the girl didn't answer. She looked over her shoulder as if expecting someone to appear from the crowd, but no one did. She was alone, completely alone. When she looked at Daniel again, her face showed a mix of fear and hope. "I don't have anywhere to go," she said, her voice low. "Can I walk with you? Just for a little while?" Daniel didn't hesitate. Of course. They began walking toward the quieter part of the market. Daniel didn't ask questions right away. He didn't want to overwhelm her. Instead, he let her take her time, offering her water from a small bottle he carried. She accepted it carefully, sipping slowly, as if she didn't want to waste a single drop as they moved through the market. People glanced at them curiously, but no one said anything. Daniel guided her toward the small repair shop where he worked. It wasn't a fancy place, just a modest shop with a few tools, wooden benches, and a shaded area where he often sat to fix things. But it was safe and quiet, and he hoped it would make her feel more comfortable. When they reached the shop, Daniel pulled out a simple wooden chair and placed it outside so she could sit. She hesitated before lowering herself onto it, as if still unsure whether she was allowed. He brought her another cup of water and gave her a piece of bread from his own bag. "You can rest here as long as you need," he said gently. The girl held the bread with both hands. She ate slowly, each bite careful and small, like someone who had been hungry for a long time but didn't want to seem greedy. Daniel watched her with quiet concern. He didn't know her story yet, but he could see that she had been through a lot. Her tired posture, her worn-out clothes, and her cautious movements told him enough to understand that she must have been traveling for days, maybe longer. A few minutes passed in silence before she finally spoke. "My name is Maya." Daniel smiled softly. "I'm Daniel." "It's nice to meet you." Maya nodded, her eyes lowering again. "I'm sorry you had to help me. I didn't mean to cause any trouble." "You didn't cause trouble," Daniel said. "Sometimes people just need someone to stand by them. That's all." Maya looked at him with a small spark of surprise, as if she wasn't used to hearing such simple kindness. She sighed softly, and for the first time her shoulders relaxed a little. Daniel felt relieved to see even the smallest bit of comfort return to her face. He didn't push her to talk more, but after a while, Maya began to speak anyway, very slowly, very carefully. She told him she had left a farming settlement far from town. She said she had been trying to find work and a safe place to stay. She had no family nearby, no friends she could turn to. She was traveling alone, which explained her weakness and hunger. Daniel listened closely, nodding gently to show he understood. He didn't interrupt her. He didn't ask for details she wasn't ready to share. The sun climbed higher, warming the quiet street. Maya sat peacefully, finishing her bread. Daniel returned inside the shop to tidy a few things but kept glancing outside to make sure she was okay. Each time he looked, Maya was still sitting quietly, her hands folded in her lap, her eyes distant, as if she was thinking about things she wasn't ready to say. After an hour, she looked up and spoke again. "Thank you for not asking too many questions." Daniel smiled kindly. "You can tell me only what you're comfortable sharing." Maya nodded slowly, as though she appreciated his patience. But Daniel could still see something hidden behind her eyes, a deeper story she wasn't ready to explain. Something heavy, something that made her feel ashamed, even though he sensed she had done nothing wrong as the day went on. Maya seemed to grow calmer, though Daniel knew she was still carrying a burden. She had walked into a town full of strangers, and instead of finding help, she had been held because of a simple debt. But now she sat quietly near someone who didn't judge her or question her worth. For Maya, that was more comforting than she could express. When Daniel looked at her again, he realized something important. The $2 he had spent were nothing compared to what the moment meant for her. He had not only paid off a small debt, he had given her a chance to breathe again. Maya ate his gaze and offered a shy but genuine smile. It was a small smile, but it carried gratitude deeper than words. Neither of them knew it yet. But the simple act Daniel performed that morning was the beginning of a much bigger story, one that would reveal truths he never expected, and one that would change both their lives in ways neither could imagine. Maya stayed seated outside Daniel's repair shop for a long time, enjoying the peaceful shade the old wooden roof provided. For the first time in days, she felt that her heart was not racing with fear. She felt safe, still uncertain, still tired, but safe enough to breathe slowly and let her thoughts settle. Daniel continued working inside the shop, but every few minutes, he stepped out to check if she needed water or if she looked uncomfortable. Each time, Maya gave him a small nod, showing she was all right. As the morning turned into afternoon, Daniel finished repairing a small old lamp. He placed it gently on the shelf and walked back outside. The town had grown warmer, and the sounds of people laughing, talking, and bargaining filled the street. Maya watched the movement around her with quiet eyes. Almost as if she had forgotten what normal life sounded like, Daniel sat on the step near her. Not too close, so she wouldn't feel pressured, but close enough that she knew she wasn't alone. After a few seconds, Maya spoke in a soft voice, as if each word took courage. "I didn't expect anyone to help me today." Daniel smiled lightly. "You didn't deserve to be treated like that. $2 shouldn't decide someone's freedom." Maya looked down at her hands. "People don't usually see it that way." Daniel didn't respond immediately. He could tell that she wasn't just talking about today, she was talking about her past, too. Something happened before she arrived in this town. Something that made her used to being overlooked or misunderstood. But Daniel didn't want to force her to speak before she was ready. He let the quiet sit between them, gentle and calm. Maya took a slow breath and continued. "I left the place where I used to work. I had no choice." Daniel listened carefully. He didn't interrupt. Her voice trembled just slightly, but she kept going. As though she needed anyone to hear her story. "I was living on a small farm," she said. "The work was simple, but it was honest. I didn't earn much, but the family there was kind. Or at least, they tried to be." Daniel nodded gently. "It sounds like you worked hard." Maya gave a small, sad smile. "I did. I didn't mind. I believed that if I worked hard, I could build a better life someday." She paused, staring at the wooden floor beneath her feet, as if she were seeing memories instead of planks. One day, something happened. Something that changed everything. "I got hurt while trying to help the family's little boy. It wasn't anything dramatic. I only slipped while I was working. But after that, I couldn't work the way I used to. I felt guilty, even though the family said it wasn't my fault." Daniel watched her carefully. Her story was simple, but he could feel the weight behind her words. A small injury could mean days without pay, and for someone already living on the edge, it could mean losing everything. "So, I left," Maya whispered. "I thought I was making things easier for them and for me. I didn't want to be a burden." Daniel tilted his head slightly. "But you weren't. You were helping them, weren't you?" Maya didn't answer immediately. She only lowered her gaze again. Her silence spoke louder than any reply. It told Daniel that she blamed herself for things that she shouldn't. It told him that she carried guilt, even when she didn't deserve it. He wanted to reassure her. But he also sensed there was more she wasn't ready to say yet. So instead of pressing her, he simply said, "Sometimes leaving isn't the wrong choice. Sometimes it's the only way someone feels they can survive." Maya breathed out slowly, almost in relief. "Maybe, but everything after I left was harder than I expected. I walked for days. I stayed in places where people barely looked at me. And when I finally reached the marketplace last night, I was too hungry to think clearly." Daniel understood. Hunger could make anyone vulnerable, and she had walked straight into the hands of someone who cared more about money than kindness. But he kept these thoughts to himself. He didn't want to make her feel worse. "You did what you had to do," Daniel said softly. "Anyone in your situation would have asked for food?" Maya shook her head slightly. "But I didn't ask. The trader offered me food when he saw me weak. He didn't tell me there was a price until after I ate. I should have known better." Daniel frowned. "You were hungry? That's all. It wasn't your fault." Maya looked at him with tired eyes that held years of quiet suffering. But in that moment, something inside her seemed to loosen, as if Daniel's words had untied a knot she had been carrying for too long. A few customers approached the shop, and Daniel stood to handle their repairs. Maya remained seated, watching him with a soft expression. She noticed how he treated everyone with patience, young, old, rich, poor. He didn't rush, didn't raise his voice, didn't show frustration. Even though he looked like a simple man with simple tools, his heart carried a calmness and steadiness she hadn't seen in a long time. When the customers left, Daniel returned to her side. Maya looked up at him and said, "You're different." "Most people wouldn't have helped me." Daniel smiled faintly. "Maybe they would. You just haven't met the right ones yet." "Yeah?" Maya gently shook her head. "No, I think I just met the right one today." Her words made Daniel pause. He wasn't used to being praised or thanked. He lived a quiet life and never thought of himself as someone special. But hearing Maya say those words made him feel unexpectedly warm inside. The afternoon sun dimmed slightly as clouds drifted across the sky. A breeze passed through the town, carrying the smell of fresh bread from a nearby bakery. Maya inhaled deeply, and Daniel noticed the way she closed her eyes, savoring the moment like someone who hadn't smelled comfort in years. "Are you hungry again?" he asked gently. She opened her eyes, embarrassed. "A little." Daniel nodded and walked inside the shop. He returned with another piece of bread and an apple he had saved for lunch. Maya hesitated, looking ashamed, but Daniel held it out calmly. "It's okay. You're not taking anything from me. You're sharing a meal with me?" Maya accepted it slowly, holding the food with grateful hands. As she ate, Daniel asked, "Do you have plans for where to go next?" The question made her freeze for a moment. She swallowed and said quietly, "No. I was hoping to reach a bigger town and find work. But after last night, I'm scared. I don't want to end up in another situation like that." Daniel's heart ached for her. Traveling alone without money or support was dangerous in many small ways, not because of violence, but because people took advantage of desperation. "You don't have to rush anywhere," he said gently. "You can rest here today. You're safe here." Maya looked up at him again. Something in her eyes softened, a mix of relief and surprise. "Why are you so kind to me?" Daniel shrugged lightly. "Because kindness is the only thing that costs nothing and still means everything." Maya's eyes shimmered slightly, but she blinked away the emotion. She wasn't used to kindness without conditions. She wasn't used to someone helping her without expecting something in return. But Daniel didn't seem to want anything, not thanks, not praise, not repayment. He simply wanted her to feel safe. As the sky grew a gentle orange, with evening approaching, Maya rested her hands on her lap and spoke again. "There's something I haven't told you," she said quietly. "Something important." Daniel turned fully toward her. "You can tell me when you're ready?" Maya looked conflicted, as if unsure whether to speak or stay silent. Her lips trembled slightly before she said, "The place I left. I didn't just get hurt. Something else happened. Something good. But I felt ashamed instead of proud." Daniel listened carefully, waiting with patience. "I helped someone," Maya continued. "Someone who could have been hurt badly. But after that, everything changed. I didn't know how to face the family anymore. So I left." Her voice shook at the end, and she looked away. Daniel wanted to ask who she helped, or why she felt ashamed for doing something good. But he knew she still wasn't ready to share the full truth. He gave her time, allowing her thoughts to settle. "It's okay," he finally said. "You can tell me the rest whenever you're ready. You're safe now. No one is going to rush you." Maya looked at him with a mixture of gratitude and confusion. Gratitude because he understood her pain without demanding explanations, and confusion because she couldn't understand why he cared, but his calm presence made her feel something she hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. The sun slowly set, and the lamps in the market began to light up, one by one. People passed by with warm smiles, small jokes, and greetings as they ended their day. The world felt normal again, and for the first time, Maya felt like maybe she belonged somewhere, not because she earned it, but because someone finally saw her as a human being who deserved kindness. She looked at Daniel, still sitting beside her, and realized something important. The $2 he had paid that morning were nothing compared to what he had given her now: the freedom to breathe, the chance to rest, and the reminder that she still had worth. And little did Daniel know, the truth she had not yet shared was something that would change everything he thought about her. Something that would show him that she wasn't just someone he helped. She was someone who had once given everything she had to help someone else. The morning after she rested, Maya felt a little lighter. The tension that had weighed on her shoulders for so long had softened. Daniel had left her for a short while to handle some repairs in the shop. But she stayed outside, enjoying the cool morning air. The birds were singing, the market was slowly opening, and the town had a quiet rhythm that made her heart feel steady again. She looked at the small repair shop with a sense of curiosity. It was simple, full of old tools and wooden benches, but it had a sense of safety she hadn't felt in days. When Daniel returned, he brought a cup of warm tea and set it carefully beside her. Maya accepted it with a small nod, holding the cup as if it contained more than just teat contained care. She sipped slowly, feeling the warmth spread through her chest. The simple gesture, something so ordinary to Daniel, meant more to her than she could say, "You seem calmer today," Daniel observed gently, sitting next to her on the step. "Did you sleep well?" Maya shook her head slightly. "I slept a little. Not much, but enough to feel less afraid." She paused, then added softly, "I didn't think anyone could care about me like this." Daniel looked at her with quiet understanding. Sometimes people don't realize how much a small act of kindness can change someone's life. He smiled faintly. Even if it's just $2 or a cup of tea or a quiet moment without judgment. Maya's lips trembled as she tried to form a response, but the words stuck in her throat. She wanted to tell him so many things, to explain everything that had happened to her. But the story felt too heavy to speak all at once. Daniel didn't push her. He simply offered a calm presence that let her gather her thoughts. After a few minutes of quiet, Maya finally spoke. "I have to tell you something about the place I left. About why I really left." Her voice was hesitant, soft, almost afraid of the truth she was about to reveal. Daniel nodded. "Whenever you're ready, I'll listen." She took a deep breath, her small hands gripping the edge of the wooden step. "I wasn't just working there to earn money. I was helping someone. A little boy. He was very young, and one day, he almost got hurt." She paused, swallowing hard. "I saved him. He could have been badly hurt, maybe worse. But I helped him. I didn't tell anyone because I didn't want attention. I just wanted him to be safe." Daniel's eyes softened. "You saved him?" Maya nodded, looking down at her hands. "Yes, but after that, everything changed. I got injured slightly while helping him and I couldn't work like before. I felt guilty, like I had let everyone down, even though it wasn't really my fault." Her voice broke slightly, and she took a deep breath to continue. "I couldn't face the family anymore. I felt ashamed, even though I had done the right thing. So I left. I thought leaving would be easier for everyone. Easier for me. I didn't want to be a burden." Daniel was silent for a moment, letting her words sink in. He could see the pain in her eyes, the guilt she carried for something she shouldn't have blamed herself for. He gently placed a hand on her shoulder, a simple touch to let her know she wasn't alone. "Maya, you did something brave. You helped someone who needed it. That is not shameful. That is something to be proud of." She shook her head, tears welling up in her eyes. "But I left. I left him. I left the family. I thought I was doing the right thing. But now I don't know if it was." Daniel looked at her calmly. "Sometimes leaving is the right thing when staying feels impossible. You didn't abandon them out of selfishness. You left because you had no other choice and because you needed to survive. That doesn't erase your good deed, shows your courage." Maya's eyes softened. She had never heard anyone speak like that to her before. Most people only saw her as a worker, someone who could do chores or pay off debts. No one had ever seen the part of her that cared, that risked herself for someone else. Daniel had seen it, and he treated it with respect. That realization made her chest feel lighter. Before she could respond, Daniel stood. "Come with me. I want to show you something." Curious, Maya followed him into the shop. Daniel walked to a small wooden chest in the corner and opened it carefully. He pulled out a clean blanket and a small pillow. You can rest here if you want. Inside the shop, it's quiet and safe. Maya hesitated, looking at the small space. It was nothing fancy, but it felt inviting. She nodded and stepped inside, placing herself on the blanket. She felt a small spark of comfort she hadn't felt in weeks. Daniel didn't sit with her this time. He simply left the door open and went back to his workbench. Giving her space as she rested, her mind wandered back to the boy she had saved. She thought of his small, frightened face and the way he had looked at her with trust. She realized how much she had missed him, even though it had been days since she left. Her heart ached, but for the first time, she didn't feel hopeless. Someone had finally given her kindness without expecting anything in return, and it reminded her that good still existed in the world. Later in the morning, a commotion in the town caught their attention. An older couple had arrived, asking quietly for information about a young girl who had worked on their farm. Daniel's curiosity grew as he watched Maya's eyes widen. The couple approached her gently, their expressions full of concern, not anger. "Maya," the woman asked softly, "is that you?" Maya froze, unsure how to respond. Daniel stepped slightly forward but stayed quiet, letting her handle the situation. "It's me," she said finally, her voice trembling. The older man and woman exchanged relieved smiles. "We've been looking for you," the man said gently. "We wanted to thank you. You saved our son. He is alive today because of you." Maya's eyes widened, and she felt tears sting her cheeks. She had never expected anyone to know the truth or care about her actions. "I didn't do it for thanks," she whispered. "We know," the woman said softly. "But we've wanted to tell you how grateful we are. You risked yourself to help him, and no one should have left you without thanks. You are part of our family now, and we want you to be safe and cared for." Daniel watched as Maya's shoulders dropped, her breath coming in short, shaky waves. The relief in her expression was undeniable. She had carried guilt for leaving, for feeling like she had failed. But now she understood that what she did was remarkable. She had helped someone, and that act of kindness had not been forgotten. The older couple stayed with her, explaining how their son had been safe after she left, how he had grown stronger and happier, and how they had wanted to show her gratitude. Maya felt a deep warmth in her chest she hadn't felt before. For weeks, she had felt invisible, unimportant, and alone. Now, she realized that one act of courage could touch lives in ways she had never imagined. Daniel, still nearby, smiled quietly to himself. He had only intended to help her for a moment, to pay the small debt and give her a chance to rest. He had no idea that Maya had already made a difference in someone else's life. But watching her face light up with relief and gratitude, he understood that helping her was just the beginning of something bigger, a story of courage, kindness, and the ripple effects of simple acts. Maya turned to Daniel. Tears in her eyes. I didn't know anyone could care about me like this." Daniel shook his head gently. "People do care. Sometimes it takes a little time to find them. But you see, the kindness you gave to that boy has now come back to you in its own way." Maya smiled faintly through her tears, feeling a lightness she hadn't known in months. She realized that even though she had been afraid, even though she had thought she had failed, there were people who recognized her worth. And in that moment, Daniel's quiet, steady support became more than just a kindness. It became a bridge to a new beginning. The older couple offered to take her back to their farm so she could see the boy she had saved. Daniel walked alongside them, giving Maya a sense of comfort as she faced the next step in her journey. She wasn't alone anymore. She had someone who believed in her. And she had the proof that her courage mattered. As they walked through the town together, Maya thought about how small moments like $2 paid at the right time, a warm meal, or a patient listener could change everything. And she knew that this day, this meeting with Daniel and the couple, would be remembered as the moment her life began to change for the better. She glanced at Daniel and gave him a soft smile, one full of gratitude and something deeper, hope. The kind of hope that comes when someone finally sees you for who you truly are, not what you can do for them, but simply for the goodness in your heart. And Daniel, quietly proud and happy, knew that this was only the beginning. Maya's steps were lighter than they had been in a long time. The morning air was soft and cool, carrying the scent of fresh bread and flowers from the marketplace. She walked alongside the older couple who had found her heart racing with a mixture of excitement and nerves. She was returning to the farm she had left weeks ago, a place she had once called home in a small, quiet way, and yet it felt completely different now. She was not returning as a worker or as someone ashamed. She was returning as someone who had saved a life, someone who mattered, someone who had been seen and recognized. Daniel walked a few steps behind her, carrying a small bundle of supplies. He didn't speak much, giving Maya the space to process everything around her. She glanced back at him from time to time, catching his calm, reassuring smile, and it made her feel steadier with each step. His presence reminded her that there were people who cared about her, not just the older couple or the boy, but someone who had simply offered kindness when it was most needed. As they approached the farm, Maya's chest tightened. Memories flooded her mind, the sound of the boy laughing, the smell of the farm in springtime, the feeling of hard earth beneath her hands as she worked, and then, of course, the moment she had saved him, the rush of fear, the relief when he had been safe. She had carried that memory quietly, tucked away, feeling both pride and guilt all at once. But now, returning with Daniel and the couple, she felt a different kind of pride, one untainted by shame. When they arrived, the boy ran out to greet them. His small legs carried him fast, and he stopped only when he reached Maya. His face lit up with pure joy. "You came back," he exclaimed, throwing his arms around her. Maya laughed softly, a sound she hadn't made in weeks, and hugged him back. The warmth of his embrace was like sunlight breaking through clouds. She hadn't realized had covered her heart. The older couple followed, their faces soft with emotion. "We wanted you to see him," the woman said. "He's grown so much thanks to you. You've saved his life, and you have to know how much that means to us." Maya felt tears prick at the corners of her eyes. She had carried guilt for leaving, thinking she had done something wrong. But now she realized that her actions had truly made a difference. She had helped someone when it mattered most, and that fact was stronger than any fear, any mistake, or any moment of doubt she had felt. Daniel stepped forward slightly, letting her enjoy the reunion without intruding, but close enough that she knew he was there. "He looks happy," he said quietly. Maya turned to him, her eyes shining. "Yes, he does. And it's because of me." She said it almost in disbelief, as if hearing the words aloud made them feel real. Daniel nodded, smiling softly. "You did a brave thing. You always deserve to be recognized for it." After a few minutes, the older couple guided Maya and Daniel inside the farmhouse. The air smelled of fresh bread and herbs, and the warm light from the windows made the room feel welcoming. Maya felt a sense of home she hadn't realized she missed so much. The boy's room had toys neatly arranged, and a small book he had been reading sat on the desk. Seeing it, she remembered how small he had seemed when she first saved him. She marveled at how much he had grown. The couple sat down with Maya and Daniel, offering warm tea and a simple meal. The conversation was gentle, filled with laughter and soft smiles. The boy kept asking questions about the journey Maya had taken, about the days she had been away, and about the town she had visited. Maya answered carefully, not wanting to exaggerate, but also feeling proud that someone cared about the story she had never shared. Daniel watched quietly, happy to see her relax and smile genuinely. The tension that had weighed on her for weeks seemed to lift a little more with each passing moment. He knew that her heart had been carrying the burden of guilt for far too long, and seeing her surrounded by people who appreciated her bravery brought a sense of relief he couldn't describe. After the meal, the older couple took Maya aside gently. "We want you to stay," the man said kindly. "You've always been part of this family, and now we want you to be fully welcome. There's a place for you here, and you don't have to worry about anything." And Maya's throat tightened. She had been alone for so long, walking from town to town, feeling invisible and unsure if anyone cared. Now, someone was offering her safety, respect, and even a home. "I don't know what to say," she whispered. "You don't need to say anything," the woman replied softly. Just know that we see you, we care about you, and we are grateful for all you've done." Maya turned her eyes to Daniel, and he gave her a reassuring nod. "See," he said quietly, "you deserve this. All of it." For the first time, Maya allowed herself to believe it. She had been running from fear and guilt, carrying shame that wasn't hers to bear. But now, surrounded by people who appreciated her, she felt a sense of belonging she hadn't felt in years. As the afternoon wore on, Daniel helped with small repairs around the farm. Maya watched him work with quiet admiration. He moved with steady hands, repairing a broken gate hinge and fixing a small leak in the roof. Even the simplest tasks he performed with care and patience. Maya realized that his kindness wasn't limited to people. He treated the world with the same respect he treated others. It was inspiring. The boy ran to him at one point, asking for help to fix a small toy wagon. Daniel smiled, kneeling down to adjust the wheel carefully, and Maya felt a warm sense of calm watching the two of them interact. She realized that this was the life she had been searching for, not just safety, but connection, trust, and kindness shared between people. As evening approached, the sky turned soft shades of orange and pink. Maya walked outside to watch the sunset, feeling the warmth on her face. Daniel joined her quietly, standing a small distance away so she could enjoy the moment alone, but close enough that she felt supported. "It's beautiful," she said softly, almost to herself. Daniel nodded. "It is, and it reminds us that no matter how dark things get, there's always light waiting." Maya thought about her journey, the marketplace, the debt, Daniel's unexpected kindness, the reunion with the family, and the boy she had saved. It all seemed like a chain of small miracles, each one leading her closer to this moment of peace. She realized that her life had been touched by people who saw her true worth, and it made her heart swell with gratitude. Turning to Daniel, she spoke with a quiet determination. "I don't want to run anymore. I don't want to hide. I want to stay here, and I want to help however I can." Daniel smiled, proud and happy. "You're welcome here, Maya. You have a place now, and you can help in any way you want, at your own pace." Maya's eyes glistened with tears, not of sadness, but of relief and hope. She had found her safety, her worth, and her place in the world. And she realized that it wasn't just about the farm or the family, it was about the people who had believed in her. When no one else did, the night fell gently over the farm. With stars beginning to twinkle in the clear sky, the boy lay asleep in his room, safe and happy. The older couple moved quietly about the house, making sure everything was ready for the next day. And Maya, for the first time in a long time, slept peacefully on the soft blanket Daniel had provided, knowing she was safe, valued, and finally free from the burden she had carried alone. The next morning, she awoke to the sounds of birds singing and the gentle movements of the farm waking up. Daniel was already outside, preparing a small task for the day. Maya joined him, carrying a basket of eggs from the chicken coop, and together they worked in calm silence. Each small task felt like a gift-on opportunity to contribute, to be part of something bigger, and to find joy in the simple moments. Throughout the day, the family and Daniel worked together, laughing and sharing stories. Maya realized that life could be kind, that people could trust each other, and that kindness, once offered, had a way of coming back in the most unexpected ways. In the evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Maya stood near the fence, looking out at the fields. Daniel joined her, and they watched the sky turn shades of deep purple and gold. She turned to him and spoke quietly. "You changed my life," she said, her voice filled with emotion. Daniel shook his head gently. "You changed it too, Maya. You saved a life, and you reminded everyone here how brave and kind you are. I just helped in a small way." Maya smiled softly, a smile full of hope and gratitude. She realized that sometimes life's greatest gifts came from the simplest acts of kindness, a coin paid at the right moment, a listening ear, or someone believing in you when you could not believe in yourself. And as the stars began to fill the sky, Maya felt a sense of peace she had never known. Her past had been full of fear and uncertainty, but her present was full of safety, love, and hope. She finally understood that she didn't have to run anymore. She had found her place. She had found people who valued her for exactly who she was, with Daniel's quiet presence beside her, the warm family surrounding her, and the boy she had saved, sleeping peacefully inside. Maya finally knew that her life could be full of joy, connection, and the kind of freedom she had always deserved. She had learned that kindness, bravery, and the courage to keep going could truly change the world, not just for one person, but for many, and for the first time in a long while, Maya smiled freely. Knowing that her story had finally found a happy beginning,